Okay, welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen, August 10th. In attendance is myself, Mike Ergo, First Selectman, Nita Kincaid, Selectwoman, Bob Carlson, Selectman, Christine Diaz, Admin Finance for the town. As always on our agenda, we start our agenda with public comments on agenda or non-agenda items. We respectfully ask that comments are left to 2 minutes in respect for everyone's time. We do have this meeting with both in-person and online attendance. So we will take comments. I'll start with any comments from the floor, and then we'll go to Bailey to manage comments that may be online. And if there are any comments from the floor, just tell me what they are and I'll repeat them so that the people online can also hear them. So do we have any public comments from the floor? Yes, the Honorable Nick Mullane is with us. Nick. The question from Nick is the entire amount of rescue plan funding going to a town meeting? The answer to that question is not necessarily. We are following our normal appropriations process. So if we have amounts that are less than $20,000, they are not going to a town meeting. They're going through the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. If they are over 20,000, they are going to town meeting. So we did have conversations with both the auditor and the town attorney on how we're moving it forward. The auditor suggested actually we didn't need to go through any sort of appropriations process and only to have one approval at town meeting for the entire amount. We opted for a more conservative approach, taking each item as we go along through the process of appropriations as we normally would for any item, even though our auditor said that wasn't necessary. We felt like that was good. We do have the funds in a separate account. So we actually have a very clear accounting as to where the money is being spent. And Christine had described earlier the fact that we have to keep very good records of how each penny is spent here because it's a federal grant. We're going through the appropriations process to allocate. That's why, I mean, that's why we decided to do that, to go through the appropriations process. Thank you for your feedback. Do we have any comments? Anyone else from the floor? Bailey, do we have any online?
Phone number ending in 9358. You're recognized.
Hey, it's Gary, Nina, Mike. Can you hear me?
We can.
Just calling in to see if I could get an update as far as the speed control measures for the village. I was sitting on the swing Saturday afternoon and a black sedan went by at about 70 miles an hour. No exaggeration. I just wondering if we have any progress there.
Was the question about the speed humps? Yeah, we had tried to get a multitude of bidders and were unsuccessful. We did finally get one. We were able to get somebody who's willing to do the speed humps. Our highway foreman just returned this past week from vacation, and we are in the process of moving forward with that. But actually, I'd like to talk to the selectmen about it. So I was going to motion a little bit of a discussion on the agenda about that tonight anyway. So thank you for bringing that up.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike.
Is there any other comments from online? All right, so I would like to motion on 2 items on the agenda. I'll just put them as agenda items 10A and B, just to keep it simple. A being the speed humps, B being the swap shed. Do I have a motion to add those 2 agenda items as A and B?
A motion to add those as 10A and 10B.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, great. Thank you for your comments, everyone. So we have first on our agenda number 3, which is some discussions about rescue plan funding, and we just had a meeting with joint meeting with our EDC subcommittee, which is second on the discussion. But first is the Cultural Coalition, and we had a very good discussion, I think last meeting or the meeting before, where I had brought forward an appropriation request for 1% of our funding to be used toward the Cultural Coalition to help with the recovery on the cultural needs and arts. And there was some discussion about that. That didn't move forward. And it was the idea to have Wendy come and talk to us, who is the executive director from the Cultural Coalition, about how, first of all, what are the needs in North Stonington and how we might best support the recovery of those efforts. So I'm very happy that Wendy was able to join us. Wendy, I don't know if you would be willing to come up to the podium, but I'll get you a microphone so the people online can hear you as well.
Hello, welcome. That's up to you, to me, for being here. Thanks for having me. I'll just give you a little outline of kind of what we're presenting, what we've offered to every municipality in Eastern Connecticut, actually. So for those of you, do they know who the Cultural Coalition is? Do I need to do a little step?
I think you should really tell us a little bit.
Okay.
We need some info.
Yeah, sure. So we are we're known as the Southeastern Connecticut Cultural Coalition, but we are now kind of currently going underneath the name Cultural Coalition. We've dropped the Southeastern because this, as of January this year, we were asked by the state to expand and include all of Northeastern region as well. So we now serve all 43 municipalities of Eastern Connecticut. We are one of 8 regional service organizations for the Connecticut Office of the Arts underneath the Department of Economic and Community Development. So we're a field office for the Office of the Arts and DECD. We've been that since inception in 2014, and we are a free membership organization so that we don't compete with organizations like the chambers, which are very active in this region. And we have over 550 registered partners with our organization, which is pretty much every museum, historical society. There's individual artists, performing arts centers, you name it, they're all kind of part of the coalition. And so over the past 7 years, our job has been everything from just quantifying how much the industry adds value to the region in terms of economic impact and jobs, understanding the needs of the sector, understanding the needs of the organizations that work in the arts and cultural sector, and understanding how we can help them, mostly through collaboration. And then we do everything from advocacy at the statewide level in terms of policy. We do professional development programs for all of the workers. We created a resilience program actually this year to help the creative workers who've been unemployed for 2 years. They've been hardest hit. And so that's a very broad kind of idea of what we do. Our office is located in Norwich in the Co-work Center in Foundry 66. And we work closely with all the municipalities across the region. We are a liaison at the COG meetings every month to provide an update to all of the municipal leaders about what is going on in the sector, what the needs are. And we have been unfortunately incredibly busy for the past year and a half. This has been an incredibly difficult time for the arts and cultural industry across the board. We're at well over $9 billion of losses in Connecticut to the arts and culture industry. 58% of the creative workers are unemployed right now and remain unemployed in the arts and cultural sector. There's a long list of data that I could give you about how hard this sector has been hit, but just to make a point that they are still in the process of being hit. These organizations, these creative workers are nowhere near recovery at this point. The weather this summer has pretty much stunk on the weekends, so any efforts to try to recoup some of those losses is being stymied by that. Also, the new kind of Delta variant is now going to take everything back even further. So we're looking at probably a 3 to 5 year recovery period just in the short term, and we're really looking at probably something like 5 to 7 years to really get back. They will never get back what they've lost, period. They've lost a lot of money along the way, and a lot of them have pivoted to find new ways to engage their audiences and stay active. There has been a lot of support for organizations and individual artists like musicians, performers, theaters, singers, you name it. But for the organizations, for the nonprofits specifically, there have been lots of funding opportunities to help these organizations. But many small organizations are not able to take advantage of those opportunities just because they have either all volunteer organizations, don't have the ability to write a grant at a competitive level. But there have been some great support relief programs for the arts and cultural sector in the state for the past year and a half. But like I said, it's nowhere near what's going to take to recover for these organizations fully. So when the ARPA was first announced, part of my job was to think about how we can help these organizations in these municipalities. We began to roll out kind of a 1% ask of every municipality. This actually began in our region with our ask of 1% of every ARPA budget from every municipality, just to think about how it could be used to help these, whatever your needs are in your community. This expanded also to the entire state. The entire state was asked, all municipalities were asked for 1%. Hartford, New Haven, all the bigger cities have pretty much done 1 to 3, some of them 5% of their budgets. So essentially millions of dollars. Norwich has committed to $500,000. Stonington is at about 100,000 right now proposed, and I think Waterford was at 500,000. So the list keeps growing in terms of understanding that there is a need here. So what our organization did was we, throughout COVID, we have made constant contact with those we serve. What are your needs? How can we help you? What's the hardest area you've been hit in? What is it that we most can kind of get information on for you? Mostly it was information about relief programs and how they can actually help themselves. And then it was just more about how are they going to manage the reopening process and getting money that they had lost to remarket events and then bring the audiences back, with the idea that this was the riskiest time for them to be putting money back into events that may or may not happen. So we drafted a bunch of opportunities in terms of here are the basic needs we've seen: general operating support for organizations, arts on demand programs, just kind of public art initiatives, whatever we could do to get them back to work or provide some economic relief. And then we realized probably 4 months ago that most municipalities do not have the capacity to basically kind of be the deciders of where that money should go in their municipalities, meaning they didn't want to choose. They didn't want to choose organizations over organizations and who should get dollars. So we stepped up and created a kind of a menu of options for all the municipalities to have in terms of how we could be helpful. And the one that we've had the most kind of response to is just the simple grant management, where if whatever dollar amount any municipality has decided to commit to arts and culture, we would administer your funds into your community only. They do not go into the regional bucket. They do not go into another town. They come directly back into your community. And we would be the ones who would help to decide what grants could be given, what they should be given for, do a little bit of work around encouraging collaboration so that we can help to accelerate some recovery amongst organizations who are going to work together potentially to think about what the needs are, whether it's marketing, whether it's promotion, whether it's just simple operating support. Our role is to really think about equitable delivery of dollars and who has normally not gotten help in the past and who has needed help. And then also to really provide a lens of relevance and diversity and a couple of things just in terms of national best practices, state best practices, in terms of how arts and cultural dollars are being spent through ARPA funding. So that's kind of where we are now, is that we would take a small management fee just for us to actually run a grant management process for you, depending on your amount. And we would design a grant program. It would be a competitive grant program, meaning we don't want to tell your arts and cultural history heritage organizations what they should do. We want them to tell us what they need, and we want to work with them to think about how we can make it even more impactful. And we want to think about how they can work with fellow businesses in town to actually turn 1 + 1 = 3 or 5, right? That's our goal. So we are not here to be prescriptive. We're not here to tell your organizations what they need. We need them to tell us. We would be the ones that would help adjudicate that process with whoever else you would want on a panel with us as a grant panel. And this is what we're finding is the municipalities are most receptive to. They don't want to have the lens of choosing arts and cultural. They don't understand kind of the nuts and bolts of the arts and cultural industry. We can help kind of really be that lens of professionalism and experts in the field that we are, and really just get the money back into your community as quickly as possible for where we thought that where they think they need it most. That's what we're offering.
Wendy, thank you for that very brief and all-encompassing review of not only what you're offering, but also what the Cultural Coalition does. And I know, having been on a lot of meetings with you and seeing firsthand the work that you're doing, what a difference you're making in that community. So thank you for being here and for all you guys are doing. I think that's a little bit of a better description than what I was able to give last time. So I don't know if the selectmen have questions for Wendy while she's here. Go ahead, Bob.
Wendy, thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
First question is actually Christine. Christine, what number am I looking at for 1%?
A little over 15,000. I don't have the exact, but I can.
15 plus or minus 15,000 plus a little.
Less than 16,000, but more than 15,000.
So is it 15 or 50?
15.
15.
All right, thank you. So Wendy,
Yes.
are you seeing this money more going to businesses who couldn't have performers perform, or performers who couldn't perform, or both?
Both. And I think you're going to see a little bit, probably some other organizations or entities that may also step forward that we may not be thinking about. Those that have either both entertainment included, such as any kind of festival that has any kind of arts and cultural history. So it could be a farmer's, it could be an agricultural fair that has some element of culture and history and heritage that may be able to come up with something that they've lost. What we're trying to not encourage is the relief dollars are helpful, but there are other relief dollars out there. We really want to see the ARPA dollars be used for recovery and rapid recovery, meaning acceleration of recovery. And relief dollars are not going to have much an impact. They're going to help them recoup some losses, but they're really not going to have any kind of transformative effect. And I'll be honest with you, $15,000 is not going to be a huge amount of, transformational change here, but it helps. And our goal is to get those who are in this community to begin the process of thinking about how they can work together moving forward with dollars, so that they can actually do more moving forward as this continues to happen with them, especially in the winter when we go inside.
So do you have an idea specifically in North Stonington of organizations that have reached out or that you're aware of that might be applying for these funds?
Not any that have reached us. So we have a whopping 6 registered partners in North Stonington with our organization. It's one of our lowest towns with the lowest amount of registered partners. However, I say that out of 43, there's probably 30 or so, well, maybe 25 or so that have less than 10 partners. That's just the reality of the rural towns of Northeast region. And I don't consider this an anomaly in any way. But I think about, you have your winery, you have the Historical Society, you have Wheeler Library, you have a lot of independent organizations who do random events here and there that are really not on the main in terms of who we think of as the regular providers of programs in this town. They do one-offs, they do one festival a year, one big event. And so we would put it out, and our job is to get any kind of promotion out to everybody in town to say, if you have a need, put it forth as an idea. If it's an innovative idea, if they're trying to do virtual programming over the winter, we'd want to see that kind of application. If they're trying to just make the dollars last or do their programming indoors, if they need, some sort of technical capacity in terms of equipment to do virtual, which is a big need in this region, is that organizations who wanted to do things online because they couldn't do it in person, they didn't have the technology, they didn't have the expertise, they didn't have anything to do that, or they did virtual performances, via Zoom, and they sounded awful. Right? And they just the reality of the technical support for how you present things. So there's little things in terms of technology that may be needed, capacity that may be needed, marketing that may be needed, but we don't have any in our mind. We wouldn't be calling anybody and saying, we think you should apply. We would put it out to everybody that we knew of and ask your help to do the same, and then see what comes in.
Are you finding towns like Voluntown, Preston, Sterling, Bosra, North Stonington? Are you finding towns like that are moving forward with the 1%, or have you not heard from those towns?
Yeah, it's funny. We had some very early cities and towns that were very quick to commit to at least 1%, largely the bigger cities. The smaller ones have been more reticent in terms of any kind of commitment and have gone through a much more public process in this. And then we're seeing a lot, but what we're hearing from the municipal leaders are, they're getting a lot of phone calls themselves from organizations saying, you should just give us the money. We need it, right? We're a local organization. We've been here for years. You should just give us like a line item basically for it. And the municipal leaders didn't want to do that. So we're finding that the smaller towns have been more reticent, but there's not as much need to do a huge grant program, in terms of putting a lot of money, because there's just not that many organizations in those towns.
Mhm. Thank you.
Nita, do you have any questions for Wendy? Can you just turn your microphone on if you're gonna? Thank you. Just for the benefit of those online.
Well, for example, what we have, you probably maybe I've already heard this. We're going to do a No Stow Fest, which we used to do. We had to skip it for 2 years, and we're looking very much forward to doing this. Is that something that the group that's going to work on it in a very short period of time that you could get involved with?
So we do not get involved in the actual programming for any organization. We're not here to be producers of events. We are here to be supporters of those who do produce events, or those businesses in the creative sector that need help. What we are seeing is that there are some festivals that have taken place for years that they know are going to bring back when it's safe to do so. And they're up against an enormous amount of events that are all coming back, right? We have an incredibly, which is fantastic, but it is an overwhelming amount of events that are coming back, and the competition is fierce. And what we're seeing is they're kind of raising their level of the game, but the marketing dollars are short because they've lost that cash. They don't have that kind of cash. But some of them are talking about bringing in kind of a headliner that they've never been able to afford before. To take it up to a level, if they're going to bring it back big, make sure they have the marketing and promotion, make sure you get that crowd. So they're putting in things and ideas around, what if we kind of put in something that we could never afford before, a headliner, some sort of additional element to the festival to really ramp it up a little bit, and then bring back new audiences and get them back, because it is fierce out there right now in terms of there's so many events. They're all just clamoring to get people back there. And the numbers are actually great for the indoor organizations. The outdoor ones are just having a rough time right now.
Okay.
So festivals are a really tough one. I would be a big supporter of seeing festivals do something a little bit more innovative, stepping it up, rethinking about marketing, how to engage new audiences, and how to take it to a next level so that they can sustain that in the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wendy, to calm anyone who might be concerned about an appropriation like this, just a question for you. So in the event that we were to appropriate the 1%, which is just over $15,000 for this program, which I agree with you, the grant program seems to be like a really good idea for a town like ours. Would it be fair to say, like, if we appropriated that and that those monies weren't used, that we would be able to retain those dollars and use them for something else? And is that?
Yeah, I mean, they're your dollars, right? So what we would do is we would run the grant program where we would receive all the applications, put together a grant panel, including somebody from the town that's also on there that would want to serve on a grant panel. We would review all the applications, score them and rank them and give them down. And then oftentimes there's some applications that simply don't qualify, right? That we can't in our own hearts give them money. But it's your money. If there's money left over, you do what you want to with it. We do take a 10% administrative fee for that. So that would be $1,500 off of that for us to run this for you. But the other opportunity is that we could think about how we could work with other areas nearby and think about maybe there's something in Stonington where you might want to hook into something with them. Maybe there's 2 events in the same month that we can do something together and coordinate marketing around those. But we would bring back to you ideas to consider. In the end, you would have grant recommendations from us saying, here is what we heard in applications. Here's how we've scored them. We have, 7 recommendations for funding, and you would have to bless them.
Just another kind of a random idea just to kind of bounce off you since you're so knowledgeable and you're here. We have a property in town, the John Dean Gallop
Yeah.
House,
Yeah.
which is a really a gem
Yes.
of
Yep.
North Stonington and has been certainly Nita is very familiar and worked very hard on the restoration of that property. And we've done some things there, but it sits vacant because it needs some things still. And it occurs to me that, you know, there's limited things that we probably can do with the property, but one of the things was that came to my mind was the possibility of using it for maybe not a museum, but maybe an artist habitat of some kind where maybe artwork could be even sold.
Yeah.
Do you see a project like that, if that were something the town was interested in, being able to be funded through these dollars?
Yeah, I mean, you have the option of if there was somebody who'd be willing to manage that. That's really the issue is
Yes.
very few people are going to raise their hand and say, oh, please let me do that. And it's usually because we don't pay them for that. However, if you're willing to use the money to pay somebody to do this work, which is the right thing to do, is to stop asking volunteers to be doing work that normally, and especially artists, right? But you could decide to put the full 15 or the you know, not forget and really invest it in one key area and think about how you could do a feeder system from that. Meaning you would have 1 year worth of pop-up programs in there. You just need somebody to manage the pop-up programs. It could be artist space. It could be an artist in, you know, some sort of residency or, you know, kind of quasi residency. You could have your businesses here come up with ideas of how they could use that space and let them. I just know part of what we always want to encourage is we don't want to dictate how we think the spaces should be. We want the community and those who are willing to put skin in the game and do the work to tell us how what they think is really the most and best and highest use of that property. But I was involved in the Gallop. I believe this was about maybe 2 years ago. I got sucked into all of the meetings and was part of the process. And there were a lot of really great ideas for that. I think you could use some seed money for this to really think about how you could do it. I don't know if ARPA dollars are used, and I don't know in terms of like really recovery, but planning dollars are probably not going to have the most impact in terms of relief. But the idea of having a space that's already there and ready to go, and you have an artistic community here, could it be used for, you know, performances, artwork, hubs, some sort of connectivity for your community? You know, art is an amazing healer in terms of bringing people together. How could you use it for that? And I would ask your lead organizations, including the Historical Society and a few others, to come together to think about how they could collaborate on something like that. But you could plunk the whole, you know.
Well, and I mean, this is just, again, this is no different than the conversation we had earlier. We're talking about 1%. That was your ask. That doesn't mean that's all we have to put towards something like this. We have the whole point of this money is to get it into the hands of those people or businesses that are most affected. And certainly arts and culture are among the most hard hit when it comes to what the pandemic has provided to them. In the event that we, as you probably have seen, you know, I think the challenge is we have some great volunteers in a lot of these groups, but there's not that person pulling it together.
Yeah.
Would if we were to appropriate some funds maybe for the grants, and also could the cultural coalition be the person that at least kind of gets the
It's so interesting because this is what we're running into in
Are
every
you?
municipality
Yeah.
is that all sounds great, but who's going to do the work?
Yeah.
And so we have discovered through ARPA, mostly through ARPA, right? So ARPA for us has been every regional effort that we have been so focused on literally got blown up by ARPA, right? Because every municipality went back into their municipalities, the silos, the walls, and back. There's not a lot of communication going on amongst municipalities of how they're going to work together with this. And it's incredibly frustrating to see the regionalism just took a huge 10 steps backwards. However, what it gives us the opportunity is to see the enormous void in municipalities who have absolutely not one iota of support that's permanent for the arts and cultural community in their town. So we're trying to plug these holes and figure out what is it that they need. And it's always a person in the end. So in Norwich, for example, they have dedicated $500,000 of their ARPA funding for the Cultural Coalition to manage. We will re-grant 400,000 of that. 75,000 of that is going to a paid person who is going to come for 2 years, coordinate all of these activities, the grants, bring the community together, talk about what they need, talk about collaboration, do the marketing and promotion, but be the herder of the cats for 2 years with the idea that that becomes a sustainable position over time. We will oversee that. That's not by the town or the city. we'll have that staff person, we'll hire them, they'll be within our office, we'll have that lens of expertise, but we realize that that's the issue, is you need to pay people to do this work. And 2 years is a good amount of time to get enough underneath their feet that potentially that could be something sustainable in a town like this, probably part-time. But what we can do is we can help cobble it together. So if our Norwich person is focused on Norwich for 25% of the time, they have other times to focus on other municipalities. And the benefit that we bring in is you all need the exact same data for your reports that every other town does. So we're already talking with people that we're working with saying, look, if we all going to have the same data to report, why don't we all use the same person, give this person basically a full-time job at this point for a little while, and all 50 of us kind of talk about how we can report and share that and save the money on the reporting needs in terms of quantifying, because we know the reporting needs are pretty steep for some towns and for some organizations, but that becomes the onus is on us to provide you with the information that you need. And we would work with partners to think about shared services to do something like that so that you have everything that you need on our side. But the idea of sharing a person who's doing the same work a little differently in every town, agricultural fairs here and festivals and maybe more citywide scapes and public artwork in Norwich. But we would give them whatever time you have paid for is the time that you would get. There's an opportunity for us to do that. And we're seeing that as being probably the greatest opportunity for us moving forward, is a dedicated staff person for municipal work for municipalities that you don't have the staff for it. We're going to dedicate one, and they're going to share different towns and services.
I think that's great news, because you're absolutely right. I mean, it's always volunteers, and some communities have more than others, and everybody's busy. And so, okay. So I think that would be a good thing for us to talk about. Other questions from the selectmen? Any other feedback? I mean, I had last time, thank you, Wendy. I had last time moved forward with the request to approve the request for the 1%. I would like to talk about that again. I think it's been well justified here. And whether or not it's through the grant program or we're able to actually get a piece of the person that's going to be there. I know we have to talk more about some of these ideas of what that person might support, but I'd like to see us, consider the appropriation so we can try to help these people in their time of need, for the $15,000, just keep it even, for the Cultural Coalition. Do I have a motion to approve that appropriation? Moved by Nita. Do I have a second? I will second it. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor of the appropriation? A discussion. Yes, go ahead, Bob, please.
So we just had the presentation tonight. I don't know why we need to vote on this evening, why we can't table it to our next meeting like we typically do when we see something for the first time. I know you talked about this last meeting, but you also said that you did not give us the kind of input that Wendy gave us this evening. I'd like to mull it over a little bit more. I mean, I'm more in favor of it now than I was in the last meeting because of the additional information. And I'm glad to hear that there's organizations involved like the Historic Society and hopefully the Fair Committee and the Grange and the Wirral Library and maybe the Lions, wherever else in town has suffered through this. When I see 15,000, I think of the wine festivals at Jonathan Edwards in fall or spring. 15,000 is not even a drop in the bucket compared to what he probably lost in those events. But maybe there's other avenues to what we spoke earlier with the EDC on some of the business parts. But the organizations don't come under what we spoke about with EDC earlier, that we talked about businesses. So organizations have made me think more about this. I want to think about it a little bit more as far as how that would affect those groups, and can we get those groups to apply? When you're talking about $15,000, I'm thinking more of the small time, the performer, the guy that goes and plays at the brewery for 3 hours, and how many gigs he did not have over the course of the last year and a half, or she didn't have. I just think there's more discussion we could have. Again, I'm more in favor of it today than I was the last time we had a meeting. And the thing that changed my mind was the organizations. If you insist on the vote today, we can, but I would like to discuss it a little bit more.
So the reason I'm trying to move things forward, a little bit more expeditiously is because of the process that we have decided that we're going to follow. And although it's not necessary, we've decided we're following our normal appropriations process, which means that it has to go through us, then it has to go through the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance right now meets monthly. I would like them to see this this month, so that way we can get these dollars to work. So that's the reason I would like to move it forward. And in this case, I did provide this documentation and a little bit of a synopsis last meeting. So it is the second time we're hearing about it. I hear what you're saying, but that's my reasoning for wanting to move it forward tonight. So there is a motion and a second on the floor.
So Mike, further discussion. If these, as stated, money not spent comes back to the town, the total fee is 10%, $1,500, or the 10% is a little over $1,500. And organizations are included. And if you wanted to raise the number, I would definitely ask to table it, but at $15,000, I'd be willing to vote on it this evening.
So there's the motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye, motion carries. The second item on the agenda thank you. There's no public comment right now, Nick, but there will be at the end. There's not public comment right now, Nick. It's at the end. Thank you. The next item is the Business Recovery Grant Fund. Wendy, thank you for being here. I don't know if you're going to take off, but we will talk. You can. Thank you. I just want to thank you for your time. No, we love you too. Thank you for coming out. Yes, we'll talk more. Thank you. We did have a meeting with EDC for those who were on the meeting. We talked a little bit about what we might be able to do for the business recovery aspect of things. EDC did some good work on trying to put together a program for our businesses. So basically what the synopsis of that meeting that we had at 5:30 was they are going to go back and put a little more detail, pen to paper, on the operational infrastructure supports. We had a number of, we were talking about different numbers about how much we might want to allocate to that. But as part of that discussion was one of the big needs that all businesses seem to have right now is a shortage of workers. And so out of this meeting that we had at 5:30, the discussion was for me to contact the sector, which is the organization that I think can be the most help to us here, with the possibility of implementing some sort of a bonus program for North Stonington workers to help get more employees working for North Stonington businesses. So I am going to go to them and give them a call tomorrow. What I'm thinking about is, again, to try to get some dollars to work here, knowing that Board of Finance meets in the third week in August and they don't meet again. What I would like to suggest is that we appropriate another 1% or $15,000 for a program like this. I won't bring it to Board of Finance if I don't have clarity on it, but it would give me the opportunity for the next 2 weeks to work with sector on something and then bring it to Board of Finance if we have something to work on. I know it's preemptive, but again, the purpose of these funds is to get them in the hands of people that need them. And that's what I'd like to talk about. So Bob, I see you turned your mic on. Do you have any?
I still am from before.
Oh, do you want to add anything?
So if I understand what you said, you're looking for an appropriation for $15,000 tonight, so it doesn't have to go to a town meeting, so we can move forward with sector. Is that correct?
No, well, no, that's not why I'm looking for so you're right. It doesn't have to go to town meeting because it's under 20,000, but I'm looking for getting some money to work. So I think that the quickest path to do that is to put forward a small appropriation. And 1% seems to be kind of the number that we're talking about a lot of times with these smaller appropriations. So that's just the number that I'm throwing out there. I'm not suggesting that number may not need to be larger, but it would help us get the ball rolling.
So I would rather, I'm for the program. I'm for the program for a lot more than $15,000. I think it needs to go to the Board of Finance and a town meeting. I'm not for a small amount to get it going before the towns listen to it. So my opinion is that the Board of Finance is going to go back and work on how they're going to work on the application on the approval side of things.
You mean EDC?
I'm assuming, what did I say?
You said Board of Finance.
Oh, yeah, EDC, sorry. EDC is going to go back and work on their end, and you're going to contact sector, and then we'll all come back together and discuss it then. I don't see a need for a vote tonight on this.
I see it as a separate initiative, although it's the same funds. And I just think that we're prolonging something that's really necessary, but so I'm going to make a motion that we move forward with an appropriation for $15,000 for the possibility of a bonus or stipend pilot program for North Stonington workers. Do I have a second? Okay, hearing no second, it will not move forward tonight. The next item is the affordable housing plan presentation. Juliet has joined us. Juliet, thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule for a quick discussion on affordable housing. The plan that has been put together with mostly a lot of your help, as well as input from the Affordable Housing Commission. I was able to attend at least one of their meetings where they discussed this. And with that, if you want to just give us a brief synopsis on the plan, that would be really wonderful.
All right. As you know, the housing plan is mandated now every 5 years for municipalities to have to adopt one if they want to be eligible for any state funding related to housing programs. It's also a good idea. We're also about to go into a planning year, and the Affordable Housing Commission did a fantastic job of implementing their first plan, probably better than any commission I've ever seen implement a plan. So they were sort of at the end of that anyway, needed some fresh ideas. Unfortunately, North Stonington still struggles with getting qualified affordable units. That's a factor of many things. We're rural. We have no infrastructure to support multifamily type housing that Stonington can put in. So we're always at a disadvantage that way. It shouldn't, it doesn't reflect a lack of trying. I mean, we have actually many more deed restricted units than other towns do. And we have a lot of qualified affordable housing through CHFA loans, which also count. So I think we also kind of struggle with the difference between qualified affordable and naturally occurring affordable housing in town and in the region. And unfortunately, a lot of times our naturally occurring affordable housing isn't occupied by low-income people. And that's something that came out in the regional study that was done. It's people that just don't want to pay a lot for housing, move into those housing units. And then Airbnb has also impacted the available housing that's affordable because they're just renting it out. So those are all some of the factors that are influencing the region. There's also been a big shift towards the need for rental housing. People don't want to buy their houses as much anymore. The workers in the region want rental housing, and we definitely don't have any of that. So that was our focus. I'll say this plan, it's done. It was approved by the commission. It probably could use another look at it when you go through your POCD process, because we didn't do a second survey. So it would be nice to repeat that survey that was done in 2008. Definitely time for that. And, just take a look at the new demographic data when they come out and when the 2020 census ever comes out. We're still waiting. But I think you'll find that we still have a population that's aging and wants to stay in their homes, and there is some desire to keep the kids nearby. COVID had a huge impact on that. Now everybody wants everybody close. That idea of family compounds came up again in planning and zoning, and so there's a need to sort of relook at what people want and what we have in the region. The incomes haven't gone up, but the cost of living has, and that's causing a lot of people to be cost burdened with respect to housing, which is probably the number one need for getting more housing. I'll say that the commission and I totally agree that the motel, the hotel that was redone at the Rotary, the little houses, we all like that. We all thought, well, in that zone, that could happen again, but as multifamily. So that's probably the next big push in planning and zoning, is to allow outright multifamily housing, which is actually mandated by that new statute that you have to designate an area for that. So I hope since I won't be here to push it, I hope somebody else will, that we push affordable housing or multifamily housing in the economic development district, but attempt to make projects that look like that and not high rises, which we can't support. So, and I think the commission was in favor of that too. Or if we could find any lots around that could conceivably support that. Our housing starts are slowly on the rise, and given what I saw over the last year and a half with the vacant, almost all of our vacant subdivision lots, you know, that have been vacant for years, suddenly sold. So I think you're going to see a big spike in development. Of course, that's all single family houses, but we have come a long way to allow mixed use with a residential component. We're already in compliance with the new statute with respect to accessory dwelling units, so that's good. Problem is they just don't count towards those qualified units. And KINSA is another organization that has started up, and they'll continue a lot of the work that the commission did, and hopefully they can get farther with deed restricted units. But I mean, the good news is we're doing sort of fine with creating housing that's affordable. We just still struggle with getting them to qualify. So I think that if you look at the goals at the end, they're going to push the education component, because CHFA loans do count. So that's why they wanted to do that flyer to sort of push that loan program, because we get, I think 27 of our units are qualified because of that. We're considering, you know, if we do allow multifamily housing, that maybe we insist that some component of it is affordable, and that's a way to get some numbers on the books. If we do allow family compounds, for example, a second accessory dwelling, that has to be deed restricted. Those are some of the ideas, and then maybe some tax incentives. And then my goal always was, and still would be, to find town-owned land and create something on it, affordable housing development, so we can just get all of the units affordable, even if it's only 10 of them or something like that. Just I would encourage us to consider that. So it's done. I hope you'll do another survey, and you can just update it, and then you start your 5-year clock again. So it's no harm. It doesn't cost anything. You can hire me back. I'll do it.
Selectmen have any? Thank you, Juliet. Does Selectmen have any questions for Juliet? Thank you for your work on this, and thanks to the Council of Governments as well. They actually were contracted to do a fair amount of work on this for us as well. So appreciate their contribution, and the Affordable Housing Committee, of course. So very appreciative to everybody's efforts on this. Number 5, Emergency Management Performance Grant Resolution. This is a resolution that we need to apply adopt every year in order to get the emergency grant that we get every year. So it's before you. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on that, or no. It's standard approval that we have every year. I can read it for the benefit of those who can't see it. It's just an authorizing resolution. Town of North Stonington Board of Selectmen certification. I, Antoinette Pancaro, the town clerk of North Stonington, do hereby certify the following is true and correct copy of a resolution adopted by the Board of Selectmen at its duly called and held meeting August 10, 2021, at which a quorum was present and acting throughout, and that the resolution has been not modified, rescinded, or revoked in its present in full force and effect. Resolved that the town of North Stonington may enter into with and deliver to the state of Connecticut Department of Energy Services and Public Protection Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security any and all documents which it deems to be necessary and appropriate, and further resolve that Michael A. Ergo, as first selectman of the town of North Stonington, is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the town of North Stonington, and to do and perform all acts and things which he/she deems necessary and appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing, delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents. The undersigned further certifies that Michael A. Ergo now holds the office of first selectman, that he or she has held that office since November 15th, correction, 2017, November 5th, 2017. It's a typo. Yeah, the last one of these I signed had it since when I actually held the office, and that's what the statement is. So I would amend it to say that I've held the office since the date that I've held it. So we can just make that amendment. Any questions or comments or concerns?
And just a question. So since we're in election year, as of November, does this hold for the full year, even though there'd be a change come November?
Yeah, this holds for the full year, and then you'll do this again next year, and it'll be whoever's here next year.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve as amended?
Yep.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Number 6, financial software discussion. So as we all know, we went through the budget process, and in the process, we went through a process where we were trying to approve some financial software, and it did not get approved at town meeting. We also, in that same kind of process, because of the timing, took out of the budget OpenGov, which is the way that we both do our budget building and manage our transparency portal for the public. So we have no budgeted financial software right now, which is problematic. It's not problematic yet because OpenGov runs through February, I think, of next year. But this would be a really good time for us to talk about how we want to move that forward through an appropriation process. So we did talk when we brought forward the financial software at the last town meeting where it was brought up. It was on an agenda with a number of different items. It was a very close vote. Everyone who works with the town works with the software, including not just the treasurer, not just Christine, not just Susan, not just me, Dan Spring, who's the chair of the Board of Finance. The Board of Ed has been very vocally advocating us getting this software so that we can be on the same page with the Board of Education. And when I say this software, I mean the Infinite Vision software, which we all talked about at length several months ago. I think we need to move forward an appropriation on some financial software. It would be my suggestion that we try to get the Infinite Vision software approved through the town meeting process. I think the numbers on that were around $60,000. And that, hopefully we could justify it to the town and that we would approve it. So that way we could actually roll it out for the start of next year. The alternative is for us to approve OpenGov. And then that would go through the appropriations process as well, but that would only have to go to Board of Finance because of the amount of the cost. My recommendation from my seat is to make a recommendation for the Infinite Vision software. Again, the people have to vote on it, but I think it's the right decision for the town, and it will help the town and the Board of Ed have a better process. And the software has much more capability than QuickBooks does. It'll be a much more robust software, and it actually has a less cost on a yearly basis than OpenGov does. So, discussion. Okay. Bob,
Surprise, surprise.
are you in favor of it?
I am too. I think you should go to the town meeting and see if we can get the appropriate software approved.
Let's have a motion to approve an additional appropriation request from C347 to a new appropriation requests for C347 for financial software, the amount of $60,325 for the implementation of Infinite Vision's financial and human resources software.
I so moved.
Second, you gonna second it? Seconds it. Need a seconds it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Year-end transfer requests. I must commend our staff as well as our admin finance for the town that we have only one transfer request, and it is the transfer request you will have every single year. And this is great work. We have not had transfer requests this year. And it is only for tax refunds, and that's because every year that's how we treat tax refunds. So the transfer request for tax refunds is in my packet. Yep. It's in my packet and it
In
is,
question on that, I see this list as B3002. Shouldn't it be B3001?
thank you. Good catch, Bob.
Thank you.
So it would be a transfer request from B2903 senior center expenses to B3001 tax refunds prior year in the amount of $5,073.01. Yes, B3002 is what it says, but Bob pointed out it should be going to B3001. It's a typo. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right, this will go to Board of Finance at their next meeting. Appointments, number 8. We have appointments. Oh, so in your packet, I had checked last time around with Bob Boisvane and Mike Messina, who have been our resident representatives for SCWA, and their appointments are made biannually for 2-year terms and are due this month. So I would like to see us reappoint them. When I did speak with them last time, they were satisfied with representing the town. So I see no reason to change that. I had a meeting with them last year, and so they have been going to meetings, but Nick is here, and Nick is actually a representative he's a board representative and reappointed to the SCWA board. And Nick, you've worked with Bob Boisvane and Mike Messina over the years with SCWA, right? Yes. And they've been yeah, thank you, Nick. And I've met with them when we've had some issues come up, and they've been really great. So any other questions or any motion to approve the appointments?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And since Nick's here, Nick was reappointed by the Council of Governments to that board as well. That's not our action, but Nick, thank you for continuing to serve. The other discussion for appointments, it's not really an appointment, but it's a discussion about the hiring committee for the position of the PDZO. So we talked about this last time, and it was decided that the board, the chair of the EDC and the chair of the P&Z would go back and bring us names of people who would be willing to serve on the hiring committee. Bob had offered to serve on that hiring committee, which was great. EDC came back with Brett and Nicole, who are both in the audience tonight, willing to serve. And then P&Z had come back with Lou and Robert Capps. So my, which I'm very thankful for everyone who put their name forth. I'm a little concerned about, there's a little bit of, and I called Lou, but I wasn't able to get in touch with him. Robert's fairly new to the board, doesn't have a lot of experience so far. So one of the, so I'm very thankful that he's willing to step up, but I was trying to think kind of outside the box on who else could serve on that hiring committee. And I was thinking about Elaine Boisvane, who served on planning and zoning for many, many years and has a great deal of experience with zoning and planning. You guys know Elaine, she was on the board for a long time. So my suggestion would be, and I did talk to Elaine and she is willing to serve on the hiring committee. So I would suggest that we put forth a committee made up of Bob, Lou, Elaine, Nicole and Brett, and certainly give our thanks to Robert for being willing to serve. But he's pretty new to the committee, so I think it would be better to have a little more experience there on this hire. So
So Mike, just a question, since Lou put the name forth and Robert was willing to serve, and I have no problem adding Elaine to it. But as you said, he's fairly new. Wouldn't this be a good learning experience for him, since someday we may need a new chair of the Board of Planning, Planning and Zoning Board? So why not have him still participate? So he will learn and he'll be knowledgeable about how the process goes.
yeah, and I thought the same. I thought about the same thing. So I can talk to Lou about it and see what his feeling is about that. And I don't have a problem with that necessarily.
So basically we'd be having who was put forth and just adding Elaine to the list.
Yeah, so that would be a committee of how many is that? 6?
That would be 6.
Okay. I don't have a problem with having a 6th. It's just if there's some sort of a tie, I would be concerned. So I would just say if there is a tie for some reason, and that we can't settle on one candidate based on the rubric that you put forward, that I would break the tie, I guess. I'll do an interview, or you can have Christine actually, which she'll be in the room. I don't have a problem with either one.
So what if we had the 2 chairs and myself? That's an odd number of 3. We broke the tie. And so
I think that's not really fair. That would be an unfair. I mean, that devalues the entire group. Like, why is there a group of that many people then? Like that makes them devalued. So
let's appoint the group and then we can talk about that, I guess, how that would work. But I get, yeah, there's probably not going to be a tie.
no, probably not. We're going to be lucky if we have how many applicants we have. So
Are you going to sit through as an observer to listen to all the candidates in there in order to, how would you break the tie?
I would have to if I was going to be the tiebreaker. I would actually recommend that Christine be the tiebreaker since she's going to be in the room. I don't see any reason to not have that be the case, but in the unlikely event of a tie. If you want to add, if that's why I wasn't suggesting we add, I thought of the same thing. I just thought keeping it to 5 would be better.
So why don't we just run it by Lou and see what he thinks, and then come back to us. And if he thinks 5 is fine, and maybe Robert could sit in as an observer himself.
Okay. I can do that. Yeah. I mean, I don't need to, we don't need to vote on this officially or anything like that. This isn't something, I mean, I've wanted to involve the selectmen as I try to involve the selectmen on pretty much everything. So it makes it easier for all of us to be on the same page. But I did reach out to Lou. I just did not hear back from him before this meeting. So I will talk to him about it. At the end, we have, I'll allow it since you are one of the people that's on the committee. Thank you for your input. Robert Capps, the other one who was nominated to serve. So, okay. So I'll talk to Lou and then I'll just put forward the committee based on that conversation. Municipal notification system. So in your packet, we were able to talk with 3 companies that offer a municipal notification system, and you have a summary from Jim Russell, IT for the town, that reviews our findings. I was present for each of the demonstrations as well, and basically we were happy to see that Everbridge actually does offer non-emergency alert system. So we're able to actually use that system for a cost for other communications beyond just emergencies. So as Jim has detailed in his letter, we would recommend that we do move forward with that. We've already appropriated these funds In fact, we've appropriated enough funds to pay for 2 years of this. And we can certainly appropriate more funds if we want to. But
So I think Everbridge is the logical choice after reading the letter. I just wish that we knew who the letter was from. It was not signed, so I didn't know who was doing the suggesting. And secondly, there was no dollar amount on the letter also.
so the letter's from Jim Russell, and I apologize that it's not signed by him, but you now you know. You can write it down, and it's not his fault. He sent this to me, and I don't think he realized I was going to put it in the packet like this, so I'll take the blame for that. As far as the cost of it, it was you have the cost, Christina, 6,000
So
change.
for the first year, it would be $6,885 and then $6,375 every year after that. So there's a one-time setup fee for the first year.
And we've appropriated not to exceed of 15,000 for that line already. So there's no action for us to. If you want to make a motion to approve Everbridge, we can, but we already approved the funds. So it's up to you guys how you want to handle it.
So I would make a motion that we move forward with Everbridge.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. We'll move that forward. Selectmen's expenses, number 10. I have nothing to report or add. Unless the selectmen have anything. All right, I motioned on. If there's not, I'll move on to agenda item 10A, which I had motioned on, which was speed humps. So the only reason I motioned it on is because we did struggle to get people that were interested in doing the speed humps. And we finally did get a number, and I just want the selectmen to be aware. I think we talked about putting in somewhere around 8 speed humps. And they are going to cost about $2,500 a piece. So I just wanted to make the selectmen aware of that before we expended those funds, because that's funds that we're not going to spend on something else.
No, I think it's great. The last thing I would want to go back to the town and tell them that we can't do them because we're getting too close to the winter and it's too cold. We said that last year. It's been a full year since. I know we've worked on it, but the sooner the speed humps go in, the better.
I don't need any motions. We've already talked about this, but I just wanted to give you an update. So what I'm going to do is we'll direct Donnie tomorrow to move these forward, and they will be installed. The second thing was the swap shed. I forwarded you guys some pictures, and I have never forwarded you pictures of the swap shed like this before, but let me reassure you, I get these pictures sometimes, not as often as I'd like. I mean, more often than I'd like. We have gone through since we've been here, periods where we had to close the swap shed because of the COVID, but we also opened it back up, and we got more signs. We put what was allowable. We've created more signs. We've put more shelving in the swap shed. What's being left in the swap shed is not acceptable. It's just not working out. So we have a problem there, and it's not just a problem because the staff has to go and kind of clean all this crap up. And you guys saw what was in those pictures. You're talking about boxes with bird crap in it. I mean, it's disgusting. It doesn't belong there. For those who use the swap shed properly, it's a shame. And then we have people who loiter around there. We've put signs up. So I have a suggestion that I just wanted to throw out there for an idea, because I love the swap shed. I think it's a great thing for the town. I hate to see that we have this problem, but we have tried a number of things to fix it and it's not working. So rather than just try to close the swap shed, what I was thinking about was, would we consider, and this requires some thought, would we consider kind of a different scenario with the swap shed where we have, say we have like 6 nonprofits who want to man the swap shed, and say the swap shed's just open on Saturdays. And instead of it just being like a giveaway, the nonprofits could kind of manage it, and they could sell stuff for a small amount, but they could manage what comes in and they get the funds for the swap shed. I'm just brainstorming that out there as an idea to try to keep it open. If someone were there managing it, it wouldn't be as bad. We do have staff at the transfer station, obviously, but they have other responsibilities. They don't stand there and monitor the swap shed. I have brainstormed with the transfer station staff about ideas about moving the swap shed. You know, we did just put cameras in at the transfer station, so it's possible behavior could change. I'm not optimistic. We've tried signs, we've tried a lot of different things. I don't think that's going to be the case. Just wanted to hear, I'm concerned about the liability, really, because if you look at that swap shed, the way everything is on the floor, if anybody's walking around in there, it's just dangerous. It's just plain dangerous to have somebody walking around in there. So thoughts from the selectmen?
Trying to picture something that we could do about giving people a number to go in and then come out. I mean, where you know who's taking things.
That's not a bad idea.
I mean,
Like you'd have it like closed off so they could only go in one or two at a time or
that's
something
right,
like that.
exactly, that's
And only
exactly.
allow a couple in at a time. It'd be more management and we might have to relocate it, but that's something we could talk about.
I mean, some people just love that. Really,
I'm one of them. I love the swap shed. Love it.
but
I don't know. I think you're thinking outside the box with the nonprofits is a good idea. I think the fact I would put a camera up though, saying that, I mean, a sign up saying cameras are now in use, very visible at the swap shed. Um, Obey the rules or be banned. I think I would hate to lose it. As Nita said, I don't want to add more work to the people that are already at the transfer station. They do a pretty good job, and when I see them up there, they all seem to be pretty busy at what they're doing. Yeah, I'm willing to listen to as many ideas as we could. I don't want to close it. I think a lot of people get use out of it. If we can help nonprofits, that's great. If we can, as long as it's not so, I mean, there's people that go to swap shed that need things. I mean, there's probably other people that go, they just take things and sell them at a flea market. So who knows? But I think the outside the box discussions make sense, but it has to change. When I saw those pictures, I couldn't believe how disgusting it was. And, you know, it's too bad because it's a good thing, you know, so willing to discuss as often as you'd like, and anything you can come up with to change the flow would be fantastic.
Maybe I could start with, maybe I could start with a sign again. We have a lot of signs up there, but like a camera, the cameras are new, so that would be a new sign. And maybe we could talk about some sort of, I have to talk with Donnie about limited access.
How many categories is there that goes into the swap shed? I know it's like books and toys, and how many different categories are there?
I think we have more like what's not allowed in the swap shed. So like food's not supposed to go in there. Paint's not supposed to go in there. Obviously garbage is not supposed to go in there. So there's I think we've tried to, both limit what's not supposed to go in there and say what is supposed to go in there. We have a sign that we created but we have a lot of signs, like people don't read them. I mean,
if the swap shed was sectioned off to books and toys and furniture, and I don't know if that would help. And then if you get something that doesn't fit any of those areas, what are you gonna do? Just drop it on the ground and run? I mean,
that's what people do.
I know.
That's what they do. I mean, they put their boxes and it's a bunch of just, I mean, it's not everybody, but like some people like just bring garbage. I mean, and I'm always trying to be the optimist. Like I'm sure, I don't want to think people mean to do it. Like, I don't know, maybe they think there's something good in the box and they're not realizing that there's also bad stuff in the box. So they shouldn't leave that box. They should just take the one item. I thought maybe more shelves would be helpful, but then the thought is, well, if there's more shelves, something could fall. And we just want to be careful about, right now we have a huge liability problem. So let me talk with Donnie about it. I brought it up to you. We've talked about it in a public meeting. So maybe if there are any nonprofits out there that like the idea of this, maybe they'll contact us. I think a nonprofit could make a real thing of this. I mean,
So we'll let the Boy Scouts put the bin there for returns, right? For bottles
Yeah.
and cans. So something, yeah, I could see a nonprofit.
but they'd have to like man it and like just do it. Just say they run it on Saturdays and it's like a business basically,
So Mike, in these days, when somebody comes in with things to leave them there, do they put them in the shed?
Yes,
Okay, so that's where the problem
Yes.
begins, correct?
it's the
Mhm.
people themselves who are bringing these
Ah.
boxes of things and leaving them there on the floor. Yes.
I think that's a no-no.
Well, it's also the shed itself is only so big, and people come from wherever they come from, and they have in their head that they were going to bring this to the swap shed, and even if there's no room in the swap shed, like they're going to put it there because they planned to, probably.
Yeah, I think there's a way to work around this stuff.
I like your idea. Yeah, think more about it. I mean, for right now, I'll talk to Donnie about the ideas that we discussed tonight, and I think we need to just figure out something to do a little bit better. We can at least put the camera sign up. We can get that made and put that up. That'll at least maybe be a first step. Anything else on that topic?
No.
Okay. Minutes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes on June 7th, 2021, 6 PM meeting. And those minutes were submitted by Bailey.
I second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. So I want to motion, but I want to make an amendment to the July 13th minutes. So we can do that under discussion, I guess. So I'll make a motion that we approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting, North Somerton Education Center in Zoom meeting, July 13, 2021 at 5 PM submitted by Bailey.
I'm sorry, Bob. Are you
I want to
going?
motion it and then we can second it, then we can discuss it because I want to make it. Or do you want me just to make the amendment now?
Go ahead. No, that's fine. So go ahead. We can second. Yeah, we can second it and then we'll talk about it. You want to second it? He motioned it. Okay, so go ahead.
So the only amendment I want to make is the meeting ended at ended at 5:39, but there was no reason. There's nothing saying why it ended, and we know it ended due to technical difficulties because the people online couldn't hear us. So I would like the minutes to be amended that it was adjourned at 5:39 PM due to technical difficulties with sound system. So if someone's looking at these minutes, they understand that the minutes it started at 5, it ended at 5:39. Well, why? Why did the meeting end so soon? And it just tells why it was ended. That's all.
So you basically just described the amendment, and I think it was pretty clear. So, so you've got a motion we have a motion, and then there is
This is July 13th.
July
correct.
13th. Yeah. So we've had discussion. So why don't you withdraw your motion of the approval and withdraw your second, and then make a new motion to approve as amended.
So I make a motion we approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting, North Stonington Education Center in Zoom meeting, July 13th, 2021 at 5 PM with an amendment submitted by Bailey.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good enough.
And the last one is I make a motion that we approve the North Somerton Education Center and Zoom meeting. Board of Selectmen, July 19, 2021, a 3:30 meeting. And those minutes were also, I believe, submitted by Bailey Talbot.
My second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Future meetings, I just put this on the agenda because I have a conflict with the regular meeting that we have scheduled on August 24th, I think. So I was gonna cancel that meeting, but if we need another meeting, we can have one. I mean, I'll get in touch with you guys for a special meeting if we have to have one.
That's fine.
Basically, just so we understand what's happening meeting wise, we do have a couple of appropriations we requested tonight. So I will go to the Board of Finance meeting and present those next week. And that we also have a town meeting, which is I think on August 25th. 23rd, thank you. That will be the Monday. So we'll have that meeting as well.
Okay.
Any other discussion on future meetings?
No.
Okay, so I'll just post that cancellation now, just so it's known. Public comments on agenda items. Do we have any public comments on agenda items? Yes, Nick. Yes, sir. No, Christine, why don't you explain to Nick how we're doing this?
Okay, so all of the American Rescue Plan funds are not budgeted funds. They do not go into the regular budget expenditures. They do not come out of our regular line items. We have a separate grants fund, which is a separate workbook in QuickBooks and is not considered part of our regular ABCD of the budget. So all of those are new projects and programs that are part of the rescue plan funds. That's how the auditor told us to set everything up. So that's why it doesn't need to go to a town meeting, because it's not an additional appropriation.
In fact, the auditor advised us that we don't even need to go through, the Board of Selectmen themselves could have approved these funds. We chose to go through our appropriations process, even though it's confusing because of what Christine just said, just so there's transparency and so the people have an opportunity to comment on the use of the funds and weigh in on them.
I can explain it to you if you want to come to the office. Okay.
Which we talked to, you can talk more with Christine about it after, Nick, and I know you don't agree with it, but we've talked with the attorney and we've talked with the auditors. We're following the guidance that we've been given. We're taking it through to the Board of Finance for an additional appropriation. That is the normal process for expenditures under $20,000. Okay. Well, we have to agree to disagree, but thank you for your comment. We, Yeah, we have empowered the crew to make sure that they enforce people that are hanging around there and to give those warnings. I'm not sure, I'd have to follow up to see if it's being done. we talked about it. No, go ahead. No, please do.
Neither your mic's off. Okay. Oh, okay. Any other comments? Do we have any other from online? Oh, I see Brett has his hand up. I think over the tenure that I've been here, it's probably made it into my updates that we have a problem there a number of times. I haven't brought it to the Board of Selectmen before, but has been communicated. When's the next quarterly coming out? I put a whole page of those pictures on there with fix this or we'll lose it. It's like you got 4 or 5 pictures that are awful pictures. When I saw them, I couldn't believe it. So,
I have over the years, I have plenty of pictures. That's just the 3 I sent to you.
but the quarterly goes to everybody, correct?
We can put that in the part of the update. Okay. Any other comments? Anyone else online? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.